Howdy, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Dunn.
And this is Miss Sarles.
And today we are going to be talking about proportions. So a proportion is very much related to a ratio because proportions are two equivalent ratios. So an example of a ratio is boys to girls. So if we start with the ratio 2/3, that's 2 boys to 3 girls. That's equal to 8 to 12. So that's 8 boys to 12 girls. They are proportional to each other. We can show that two ratios are proportional when the ratios cross products are equal. Okay, so let's look at what that means. Cross products means when I take the two numbers that are across from each other, and products means what, Miss Sarles?
Products is your answer to your multiplication problem.
Okay, so we're going to say 2 times 12 is equal to 3 times 8. Now, does it matter if I put 2 times 12 first or 3 times 8?
That does not matter.
Okay, so they should be equal if they are proportional. So 2 times 12, Miss Sarles, is what?
24.
24. And is 8 times 3 also 24?
It is also 24.
Fantastic. And that is why 2/3 is equal to 8/12, and those ratios are proportional to each other. So we see ratios for a lot of situations where we're comparing two things, and we use proportions to help us solve for a part of the unknown. So when we're given, these are basically 4 numbers, we're given 3 of them and we need to solve for the 4th one. So we're going to be solving some proportions today. There are 2 ways to solve proportions. We can look for a relationship, or we can cross multiply and divide. So we're going to show some examples of that. My first ratio that I'm going to start with is 2/7, and I'm going to make it into a proportion by putting it as 8 over, and I don't know what that something is, so I'm going to have to solve for that. Okay, so if I start with that, what do you think I should do, Miss Sarles? Should I look for a relationship or cross multiply and divide?
Well, I always say work smarter, not harder, so I would look for a relationship first.
Okay, so what does it mean by looking for a relationship with these numbers?
We'll find a factor that you can either multiply or divide by to solve for your problem.
Okay, so if I'm looking here, I'm going across, so I'm saying 2 to 8. Now when I'm looking for that factor, do I add to get to 8? Do I subtract? What do I do?
You never add or subtract. You always either multiply or divide.
Okay, so if I can find a relationship, so what can I multiply 2 by to get to 8?
4.
Oh, that's easy. So 2 times 4 is 8. So if I use that same relationship, it's almost like we're looking at equivalent fractions.
Yes, they're very similar to equivalent fractions.
And then 7 times 4, I know that, that's 28. So my unknown is 28. Well, that was pretty easy. But just so that we can make sure that we understand cross multiplication, I'm going to rewrite my proportion, and I'm going to solve it using cross multiplication. So when I cross multiply and divide, I'm going to take the 2 numbers that when I cross, they have a pair. So the 8 and the 7, they pair up. I can't multiply 2 times something because I don't know what that something is yet. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 8, and I know 7 times 8 is 56. And then I divide by my leftover number. My leftover number is 2, so 56 divided by 2, which also equals 28. And that's why we get the same number each time. Okay, so I want you to help me out with this next one. I have 7 over 13 equal to my unknown over 52. Now instead of a box, I went ahead and put a variable, an x there. So I'm going to solve for x. So again, I should look for a relationship. I'm trying to look down here, 13 and 52. That's a little bit harder.
Well, this is actually pretty easy for me because there are 13 cards in a suit and there are 52 cards in a deck of cards. So I would multiply by 4.